Graphs. And I think, although Murphy has only beaten O'Sullivan 3 times in 14 attempts, that victory in particular in the Champion of Champions over this sort of distance, best of 19, in one of the biggest invitationals in the world, just proved to Murphy, as much as anything else, that he could beat O'Sullivan over that sort of distance, having not managed to do so previously. And that has got to stand him in good stead today, you would think, as he looks to repeat that trick. But O'Sullivan came on strong in the second session, Neil, against Robertson. Yes, we know that the Aussie was unlucky with his tip, no doubt about that, but finished with a 134 break, scored heavily again.
Yeah, well, it's typical O'Sullivan. He saw an opening and he took advantage of it. But I thought early on in that match, Neil Robertson was scoring more heavily. Ronnie was hanging on, winning close frames, because that's what he has to do now, I suppose, on occasions. But if you hadn't seen snooker before, and I was having a discussion with David Hendon, our fellow commentator last night, and indeed Joe Johnson, we were all there, and saying that if you hadn't really seen much snooker before, you would give Murphy an outstanding chance here, wouldn't you? Because he looks to be playing as well as anybody right now, but it's the O'Sullivan factor, which is he's fallen foul of before, which might be the reason he doesn't win. So it's a fascinating game, you know. If you can put everything that's gone before away, then this could go all the way, this match, I think, because Murphy's playing very nicely again.
Such a contrast, of course, from last season when he suffered 9 first-round exits, Murphy. That threatened his top 16 place. He needed that run to the final of the International Championship in order to preserve his status amongst the elite, but now very much upwardly mobile again. His second consecutive major final here in China. And O'Sullivan described him as the best player this season so far. Of course, Trump beat Murphy handsomely in that final in Daqing.
Well, I think there's always an element of somebody just taking the pressure off themselves saying that. There's an argument that he's not quite the best player of the season, but by the same token, Ronnie isn't far wrong. He's been playing some good stuff, and we're talking about a winner of the Triple Crown here, so he's not like just somebody who's in a bit of form. He's, class is permanent and all of those remarks. It's a long match, isn't it? This 21 frame match, 10 frames in this session. Interestingly, the mid-session interval by definition should be after 5, shouldn't it? If there's 10, but it's not. Old habits die hard. We've got 4 frames, then they're followed by 6, but for no obvious reason.
O'Sullivan hasn't always been at his best this week. He needed a bit of help from Kyron Wilson, who outplayed him in the first half of their match. Of course, recovered from a very precarious 5-1 behind to win in the decider, but I think that's one of the things that's pleased O'Sullivan in recent times, that he's shown he can scrap to victory when he's not flowing, as we know he can.
7.
As he said ahead of this final, when you're playing well, this game's easy, but when you are struggling a bit, you've got to dig deep, and that's what he's been able to do, not only in this tournament, but in the last couple of seasons when he's enjoyed so much success. 10 major titles in the last 2 campaigns.
I think he feels he's not on that red, actually, which is a great disappointment that he should have broken down so early. Seems to be an awful lot of reds that he could have landed on, but he's gone in between all of them. Yes, and his long game was a bit in and out yesterday. Potted a couple of important ones, but there were a few that went astray, and to be honest, I expected him to pot that. And it seems that he's left Sean Murphy the sort of early chance he needs. These two are, these two have a mutual respect for each other on the table, but it's safe to say that they wouldn't have a lot in common off the table, I think. That's probably the fairest way of putting it. And I don't think either would particularly enjoy losing to the other one.
1.
It's not a needle match. I don't think it's quite as extreme as that, but anyone that's followed the games of the last years will probably know where I'm coming from on that score. They're very different personalities. Both great players.
Seven. Eight.
Something of a cueing shot here. And he's cueing well, like I said. I think we can expect a very entertaining match as well. The kind of snooker these
13.
two play. It's not so much all-out attack, but it's always very pleasing on the eye.
$14.
Black spot isn't free yet, but I think it could be made free. Certainly by moving this red that he's now about to play, the right-hand red, down the bottom, and that makes the black available to the right corner, of course, and the red above it, if that's potted, then all of a sudden everything's out in the open. As you can see, the other reds all go there.
21. $27.
Well, there is a possible plant in there, as you saw. He's not right behind it, so I don't think he'd want to play it yet, but it could be those two reds, as you can see, just below the pink, as we get that perfect camera angle, or a plant.
28. $35. $36.
Well, he's a bit unlucky there. He hit a series of reds on the way through.
43.
He's cannoned 3 reds and not finished on anything. It can be dangerous when you know a match is a long match. We know this is an unusual trip, first to 11 to win it, but it doesn't mean you don't need a good start. Playing in the world final over 35, you need a good start.
Sean Murphy. 43.
So you can't be switched off early on. I'm not saying either player is, but I'm just making the point. You get off to a bad start and your opponent can run away with a session. So that's what we'll be looking to avoid.
One.
Cement Tremendous pot from O'Sullivan from long range. Pretty close to the cushion, but it didn't affect him. Yes, and O'Sullivan is surely the best front runner the game has ever seen. Most of his triumphs down the years have come after he's got off to a quick start and gone on to dominate. Once he does get in front, it's very, very difficult to peg him back. It's happened. Mark Selby has done it a few times to him, but it's pretty rare for O'Sullivan to cough up a lead. He's appearing in his 105th professional final today and going for his 70th title, which would match Stephen Hendry's record.
He's fallen out of position there, a bit like the shot that Murphy had actually. Just kissed a red incorrectly. No, you're absolutely right, Philip, that O'Sullivan very rarely gives up a big lead. We probably should mention one of the great comebacks made of the late Paul Hunter, the much missed, wonderful snooker player in Masters final.
And O'Sullivan 12.
Was way in front, O'Sullivan, and Paul Hunter came back to beat him in the Masters final by the odd frame, or something like 7-2, 7-3. A much missed talent.
Yes, Hunter had an incredible record at the Masters, didn't he? All three of his titles there came in a final frame decider. Well, that was a fabulous spot from Murphy, and a bit unlucky to get the cannon that he did on the black.
I think this first frame has been more a story of players getting out of position. There hasn't really been anything missed, has there? It's just
yellow ball.
For some reason, they haven't been able to get the cue ball under the control you'd expect. It's a good shot as well. Look at that. That could not have been played any better.
One.
There's been nothing wrong with Murphy's tactical game this week, and he has made the point that practicing as he does in his relatively new home of Dublin with Fergal O'Brien has helped that facet of his game, which perhaps has been something of a weakness, comparatively speaking, in the past. O'Sullivan hits the reds, but has he left one hit?
Well, Murphy has earned that chance because of the safety shot he played. And he's got a 25-point lead here, so he's not far away from getting over the line. And now he's got this far in this frame. He really needs to just convert it, notch the frame up, and settle him. It's a much eagerly awaited match, this, Philip. We had messages today from people watching from New Zealand, Australia and London. It's important to understand the popularity of this game. You see a big event like the Shanghai Masters, and people from either hemisphere will enjoy this matchup. It's a long match, but I'm sure Murphy will hope it shapes up pretty well in this first session. He needs to get into it. Doesn't need O'Sullivan to start pile driving in with break after break, which we know can happen.
Eight.
They've made 11 centuries between them during this tournament. O'Sullivan 6, Murphy 5.
That was very well cued. It really was. I mean, he was over the top of that red, but he still played it around two cushions very nicely. He doesn't want this to spot. It may be that he's still on one. He could much prefer this pink to be on the black spot. 39 the lead. I think Murphy can get to that red. Yeah, he can. Of course, if the pink had have spotted, the other
15.
red would have been available. But in rolling the blue in, he'll be 45 in front with 43 on. I think Sean Murphy has played a good frame here. Nothing spectacular, no centuries or anything. But if you analyse it, he's done very little wrong.
And it was that safety shot that had O'Sullivan in trouble, which has presented this opportunity to clinch
21.
the frame, which he's taken.
Green ball. Sean Murphy, 21, in the frame.
Sean Murphy is playing a pretty formidable all-round game at the start of this season, and he's made the ideal start against Ronnie O'Sullivan. A long way to go, but Murphy leads by a frame to nil. Sean Murphy breaks off in frame 2, having got the better of the tactical exchange in the opening frame. Break of 43 helping him on his way to the first frame here in the Shanghai Masters final. Remember, this match is worth £100,000. That's the difference between winning and losing. 200 to the winner, 100 to the runner-up. Ronnie O'Sullivan, who's won 14 matches on the bounce in this tournament, looking to defend his title.
That'll be a great relief to him. The Murphy break, actually, he was lucky because he pushed the red up the table and covered it with a bulk colour. Now, if Ronnie had gone in off there, of course, you can see the damage that was caused. And it must have been a heart-stopping moment. It was on its way, wasn't it? It's a very dangerous way to play that shot. I'm amazed that Murphy played that. So much risk attached. He left the red over the left middle, or near the left middle. I don't think that was the right shot. Because you've got to cover the red that's on. He's left the other red as well. It might be O'Sullivan plays the right-hand red. But really, Murphy took a risk there that he didn't need to take.
One.
Good pace on this. That's a very good shot from O'Sullivan. The reason I say that is because he had to overhit it, if you like, because he wanted to come in and out of bolt, and it's sometimes not easy to get that much pace on the ball on that shot.
Four. Five. Ten.
Finishing high in the red means he can get the other red into play. It's not bad, actually. I have
11.
to say that is a little bit unlucky. You never know quite where the other red's going to finish. I thought the plan was a good one. Now he's going to play a recovery shot on this ping, which is not really what he's hoping for. Down the bottom would be an attacking way of playing it. Down in the middle is an easier pot, I suppose. I'm not sure he could hold from playing it that way.
On the side of 11.
Anyway, that was unlucky initially, but I thought that that shot was loose.
Murphy came through one tough match this week against 3-time world champ Mark Williams, which went to the wire. His other victories have been pretty serene, dropping just 5 frames in the matches against Liu Haoshan Jack Lazowski and Mark Allen combined. He certainly would have been keyed up today for a battle royale against O'Sullivan.
Feel that you could get up into bulk here without leaving anything. Difficult balance for O'Sullivan. He wants to play attacking safety shots, but Murphy likes an attacking game as well. He's got to play as well as he can. He's not playing a spoiler here in any way in Murphy. Not someone that's going to disrupt the flow of the game, because as I say, that doesn't really suit him either. They're both very attractive players to watch.
One.
Another sweetly struck long-range red from Murphy.
Yes, he's finished just about nowhere, actually. He's finished in the bulk. He's bounced the cue ball out off the bulk cushion, but
Yellow ball.
I think a little tickle in behind the colour is all he can do here.
Murphy 1.
Not sure if he's covered the left red. Well, that's a very poor shot from Murphy. Unforced errors, he's made 2 of them. That really wasn't the most difficult safety shot he'll ever play.
1. Five. 6. Thirteen. 14.
He's just slightly out of position here in that he's top side of the pink, but he can land on the red, but not particularly behind it, I don't think.
Twenty. 21.
Just about top side, but again, has he got a way of opening the bunch? I'm not sure he has. That was well cued to make a wide angle to get on that bottom red.
26.
Or maybe the red on the right of the bunch, actually. Yeah, the bottom red doesn't go. That red is a better shot, I think, O'Sullivan played. The black looks a natural to go into them. He could play on the loose red once again. Sullivan, you feel, just
34.
settling into the match.
35.
Won the lead then, still 65 41. On. He'll need red, colour red, whatever happens here. Well, I think he missed that because he was trying to widen the angle. 41. I think it was a little straight. But he wanted to get around two cushions for the black.
This will be a great frame for Shaun Murphy to win. He made a fantastic clearance of 61 to effectively seal victory against Mark Allen in his semi-final after Allen had missed a very straightforward frame ball red, but the clearance was far from straightforward. 2 or 3 awkward reds. Black was tied up when he came to the table. If he could do something similar here with a rather more favourable table and move 2-0 up, that would give O'Sullivan something to think about.
Well, Philip, a lot will depend on how he plays his next shot, because he could disturb these 4 reds. Well, it's not bad. Actually, both middle pockets come into play here.
8.
He didn't play it too firmly, that cannon, and he could have pushed a red on a cushion had he done that.
Nine.
Yes, early in the match, but this is a possibly significant moment.
$16. $17. $24.
Murphy has played a couple of loose safeties in this frame, which has been uncharacteristic of the way he's gone about things this week, but it won't matter. He can dish up here.
Just keeping it simple there as well, playing on the pink. I think that was a good way of playing it, just to get in behind it. It makes it easy to get on this other red from there. Just a fraction short of where he wants to be.
31.
So when you had a look at the potting angle, it's just giving it everything. Goodness me.
32.
He nearly missed it, didn't he? It really did wobble. I thought that was staying out.
That was a heart in the mouth moment for Murphy, but it dropped.
I'm not sure how it dropped, but it did drop. These pockets might be slightly generous, but they're the same for both players.
35. 37.
Well, that's not a good shot. Again, he might still clear up, but he gave that too much. How has he finished there? I think he's a little nervous here on this clearance. And the problem with the clearance like this, you know how much it means to get it, but once you get into this position, if you miss it, it hurts.
Yeah, and Murphy's good with the rest, but the problem is he's hampered by the blue, so he can't use the rest. He's going to have to use the spider.
Yeah, he is good with the spider as he is with the rest. Big shot.
This is awkward. Very missable under pressure.
It's a fabulous shot. Again, he's a little not much out of position, but he's further away from the brown than he would want to be. Well, he's not entirely beaten in this frame yet.
44.
That's okay. If you can drop this in and finish straight on the pink, it is frame over in my view.
$49.
One or two scary moments for Murphy in this clearance, but a very important one
55.
early in this final. Ronnie O'Sullivan missed a red with the rest when he was closing in on the frame. It looks as though it was going to be 1-1, but Murphy has cleared up. He's held his nerve and he's doubled his lead. Shaun Murphy leads 2-0. Come back to Shanghai, where Ronnie O'Sullivan has been put under early pressure in the final here by Shaun Murphy. A superb clearance from Murphy to steal frame 2 on the black after O'Sullivan had missed a red with the rest. Total of 10 frames in this first session. 11 is the target for the title. 12 months ago, O'Sullivan beat Barry Hawkins 11-9. One stage he trailed 6-4 in that final. Murphy would have been acutely aware of the need to start well, not allow O'Sullivan to run away with the first session, and to that end it's mission accomplished. And I do think his victory in the Champion of Champions in the final over O'Sullivan 2 years ago was a very significant win for Murphy, to prove to himself that not only can he compete with O'Sullivan over the long distance, he can beat him. That's got to have given him a lot of extra belief coming into this match.
Yes, of course, O'Sullivan managed to beat him in the UK final not long after, but like you say, I think a win is a win, and it's all about knowing you can do it. Well, I think losing frame 2 has hurt him. I think it's sometimes those are the more significant frames, really, the ones that you win that you should lose, and vice versa. And he's left that red on narrowly to the middle, so he's a bit rattled, I think. So Murphy in first. If he can make a sizable break here, then he applies even more pressure. Interesting shot selection this, because there's plenty of reds on, but I think
6.
going into the pink, he was hoping to free the pink. He's actually landed on a red in the end, went for a second as if he was on nothing. There's a right-hander along the cushion, it's not so difficult, this.
7. Twelve. 13. 18.
They'll be annoyed there to finish where he has. I think he's got a very awkward little red to the right middle here to keep the break going. Narrow pocket opening, and also a little bit hampered by the red near his cue. Yeah, there was a degree of difficulty about that shot, which probably, due to his bad positional shot, could have been avoided.
It's a good start from Murphy, but he's got to keep it going. He's got O'Sullivan under pressure, but can't afford to in any way rest on his laurels despite this promising opening. We've seen how ruthless O'Sullivan is when he gets ahead of an opponent. Murphy has got to do something similar, because he gives O'Sullivan opportunities like this, which he probably shouldn't have had. It's only a matter of time before he's punished.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny game, snooker, when you think about it, because you shouldn't really be worrying about 2-0 down. You just got to try and win frames 1 to 11. You get to your 11th frame, you've won the match, but you can't help get a little bit nervy when your opponent takes the lead. Especially when,
7.
in the case of O'Sullivan, he should have won the previous frame, and he hasn't won one yet. And he got a little lucky there because he hit the jaws of the middle pocket, I think. And what has he played on here? The red by the black, perhaps. Good shot if he's on it, because that's the key red, and it brings everything into play.
Thirteen.
Well, again, he gets some applause, but it wasn't,
18.
of course, as played. He didn't play the glance off that red. Well, it wasn't quite as easy as what he made it look. The previous shot wasn't very good, and he was queuing over the red there, trying to force an angle, and he forced it too wide.
Well, you heard the gasp of the crowd. They couldn't believe O'Sullivan missed there. He's not settled. But that's what pressure does. Murphy with 2 frames on the board, having won a frame O'Sullivan should have won. Just makes what on the face of it was a relatively routine shot that little bit trickier.
Yeah, I think he rushed it. I think the previous shot was not as played, which doesn't really suit O'Sullivan. And then, you're right, it was relatively straightforward, but he was just queuing fractionally over a ball. It might have needed just a little bit more care and attention than O'Sullivan gave it. Just needed to play a shot to get himself back in prime position. Now he has to sit and hope that Murphy misses.
Seven.
Well, this time it's Murphy who's not on the ready played on. The bunch
14.
kind of got in the way as he went into them. Red to the right middle. Not dissimilar to the kind of shot that Sullivan has missed in this match already. Very well
15.
cued.
$22. 23. $30.
I think he has to play through the gap here. Onto the blue. Gap between the two reds.
31.
Played it all right.
$36. 37.
So he's homing in on another frame here. Lead is now 37 points. The yellow is a natural to come in behind the two reds to the right corner. And he needs a red and a relatively high value colour, which he'll probably get anyway with
39.
the red he's about to play. And Ronnie O'Sullivan has had a chance to win this frame as well as the previous ones.
40.
He's not as if he's been blown away by one visit snooker. He's had his own chances, or a chance in every frame.
Yes, he's looked scratchy so far, O'Sullivan. And Murphy is punishing him. A red that O'Sullivan would normally
47.
get in this frame. A misread with the rest in the previous
48.
frame when he was close to levelling at one each. And now the pressure increasing on the defending champion at 3-0 down. This is the start that Murphy would have dreamt of.
55.
That man has a few problems to solve. Of
56.
course, he's got plenty of time to solve them over a match of this length, the first to 11 for the title. But it's a great start from Murphy, who is appearing in his first Shanghai Masters final.
63.
This is the 6th final they've contested. O'Sullivan's won 3 of them.
65. 68.
But it's Murphy who's looking stronger player at the start of this one.
Shane Murphy. 68 in the frame.
A break of 68 from Murphy. What a start from the former world champion here against a player who he hasn't beaten very often. 3-0 up. Ronnie O'Sullivan has said that snooker's easy when you're playing well, but when you're not, you have to scrap. Well, he's going to have to scrap here because he's made an indifferent start against Sean Murphy, who's continuing to play well, as he's done all season. His second consecutive final. And this time he's hungry for the silverware, having missed out in Daqing to Judd Trump. It's the perfect start. 3-0 up with 7 more frames to come in this first session.
Yeah, I mean, now is not the time to panic, clearly, for O'Sullivan, but he does need to get something on the board before we take our break after 4 frames here. Otherwise it'll be an uncomfortable few minutes, because he has had chances, as we've said. We shouldn't underestimate how well Shaun Murphy's been playing, though, because he's been a lot better this season than previously. Lost a lot of first-round matches last season, never got started in so many events. It was kind of difficult to see why, because nothing really looks to have changed in his cue action.
1.
And that's another terrific pot, and he's landed on a colour this time.
There were off-the-table distractions last season. Relocating his family out to Dublin, there were complications following the birth of his daughter, which caused him to withdraw from this tournament last
6.
season. And of course, he was involved in the snooker politics as well, having been on the board. So maybe now his mind is just that much clearer, concentrating entirely on his game. Maybe 1 or 2 technical tweaks
7.
with his coach Chris Henry, who he's hooked back up with. That happened just before the Scottish Open, before Christmas, when he reached the final.
I think he has to go back to being a snooker player again. Also, during the World Championships, while he was still in it, he was commentating on other matches in between the sessions of his own match, spreading
14.
his work too thinly, I would say. First and foremost, he's still a leading player, so nothing to do with me, but I would have said stay out of the commentary box,
15.
stay out of the politics of the game and just play. I mean, there's always further down the line he can do the other things, and he is just playing, and he's playing mighty well. And that's a good shot as well, because he's landed on the red.
22. 23. Search.
Well, he's doing a good job here of getting the reds open and landing on one at the same time. He's done it again.
$31.
A little bit awkward for Zheng Wei Li,
37.
but a steady hand to get the pink back where it should be.
Yeah, the reds are not that well spread, actually. Kind of, they're scattered, but not particularly
38.
easy to get on one. He might just think it's worth nudging into them again here. It'd be hard to think that if he played it with pace, he wouldn't be on something. But he's on the 2 reds to the left corner. I think he might have got a bad contact there, you know.
43.
Because he should never have finished where he has. Thought it made a little dull sound when he hit the blue. I wonder if it ever crossed his mind to go into them. Of course, you can't know you're going to get a kick. And for that reason, the break didn't amount to what it could have done.
Sir Murphy, 43.
That wasn't a bad kiss on the green. Had he not hit the green, he might well have left the red for O'Sullivan over the left corner pocket. He might still have done, but it's tougher from there. That's a good pot.
It really is a good pot. Now, it's not quite at crisis levels, this match, but this would be a very good time to make a break of 65-70 and win the frame.
It's just not happening for O'Sullivan, is it?
I'm surprised he went into them there. I don't think he potted the brown very cleanly, because it made a strange sound when it went in. So on that basis, the cue ball probably didn't go where he thought it might.
Runner starting 5.
Well, that's a classy shot. Now that is as important as any pot to play a shot that good. So now all of a sudden the onus is on Murphy. He's already thinking, well, it should be 4-0 up. And if he loses this frame, if he loses it, that is, and it's a long way off, then that's where you see the psychology of the game. If he escapes from this, then there's no real issue. Left a red on, but a thin one.
It feels like a big frame early in this final, doesn't it? Because as you say, Murphy was looking good for 4-0 there. Ran out of prime position, Mr. Red. This would be a big frame for O'Sullivan to steal.
I'm not sure if he's on this, you know. It must be very tight, this yellow. Little trace of left-hand side, maybe. Good shot, because he didn't have to play it. And he could have, if he was worried about whether it went, he could have played the snooker. I know he wouldn't have wanted to do that. Well, with the green away from his spot, it doesn't matter that he's wrong side of the blue, really. He'll go with the green spot here.
Nine.
Well, he's going to have to go, isn't it? He must have played on it. That looks tight.
10.
I think it only went to the left jaw. I don't think it went into the middle of the pocket, looking at it. That is a fantastic shot. He had no room for manoeuvre there.
17. 18.
Problem is he's pushed the four reds into fairly safe positions again. He's got to get them open. Everything is a struggle.
25.
On the red, but again, with a little bit more angle on it than he would have wanted.
26.
Well, these feel like important moments to me. In a long match, albeit. But this frame Murphy was in on that break of 43. May have got a heavy contact on the
33.
blue, which meant he lost position, which won't count for anything unless O'Sullivan takes full advantage of this. Well, he's right in between shots here. Plays this red, of course he screws up for the blue.
34.
It's okay with the two reds in the middle of the table, I guess. Didn't have much angle to play on. Just the other thing to say is that
39.
where the brown is, it just could cause him a slight problem getting on the yellow.
40.
The best positional play I've ever seen, but it'll take just a little bit of care and attention. Because one thing that he could do, he could play on the brown to the top right pocket, which clears all the decks for the yellow then.
47.
That's what he's done.
48.
See, that's a great little shot. One that could have gone unnoticed.
This has easily been O'Sullivan's best snooker of this final thus far. Can he complete the job? It's one of those scenarios where if you'd offered Sean Murphy a 3-1 lead at the first interval, of course he'd have been delighted at the outset, but
52.
O'Sullivan can clear here. He might head to the dressing room a little frustrated.
54.
Yes, he just needs up to the brown. A little bit more to do. Well, he just went in. Now, can you believe where he's finished? No, he needs not to rush this because this is a very important shot. He just needs an extra couple of seconds to compose himself for it. He's looked at the potting angle, so he's given himself every chance. He'd be furious if this doesn't go in. Oh, that's terrific. That really is.
Well, the crowd knew before O'Sullivan did that that was heading for the pocket. Very missable shot. It was frame ball.
O'Sullivan, 61.
That's a very fine break of 61 from O'Sullivan to leave Murphy requiring a snooker.
I don't like the way that O'Sullivan played that because he tried to roll it almost over the hole. When you think about it, that could have cost him. Murphy, well, I thought he wasn't out of the frame. One snooker on the pink was likely, but he's out of the frame now. I suppose O'Sullivan probably didn't want to stop here. We always have the mid-session interval after 4 frames, even though it's not mid-session, because you play 10 frames. O'Sullivan might have wanted to carry on. But we'll take a 15-minute recess.
Yes, a very important frame for Ronnie O'Sullivan. He needed to stop the rot there after an indifferent start. Sean Murphy has been the stronger in that mini-session, but he'll know as he heads to the dressing room it could have been even better. It could have been 4-zip. But O'Sullivan's 61 break means that he's closed the gap to just 2. I brought you highlights of last year's International Championship final. Mark Selby just pipping John Higgins to the post, and of course that's our next big tournament. The China Championship starts a week tomorrow here on Eurosport. We'll bring you coverage throughout the week. And it's the last title, Neil, that former world #1 Selby has to defend.
Yeah, which is quite hard to believe when you think how prolific a winner he's been in the last 5 years or so. He was world #1 at that point by a mile, and now he's down to world #6. And that's a bad shot from Sean Murphy there. I don't know quite how he's stuck that red. Yeah, I mean, just briefly on that before we see O'Sullivan start his break. Mark Selby's not even in the Champion of Champions yet, and that is amazing when you think that he would have been multiply entered into it in previous years.
What?
This man is, he's the defending champion of an event that I was going to say he owned, but of course he hasn't won it every year. They put the Rico in Coventry in the UK.
Six.
Won it in dramatic fashion last season, of course, in the final frame decider against Kyron Wilson. Rode his luck a bit.
7.
A key fluke in the penultimate frame from memory. Proved to be very significant.
Yes, and of course the year before it was the man he's playing today who beat him, Sean Murphy, in that final. But that was a very important fourth frame that O'Sullivan won, because things were getting quite serious, 3-0 down, and for all the world it looked as if it was going to be 4-0. I think it's already proving to be a very absorbing match, this.
Thirteen.
It was easily the most fluent snooker that O'Sullivan has produced in this final so far. That break of 61
20.
to get himself a foothold in this final.
$21.
He was arguably outplayed in the first session yesterday. Neil Robertson ended up winning it 5-4 despite his tip problems. Managed to win 3 of the last 4 frames of that session despite losing a big chunk out of his tip. Of course, in the end, O'Sullivan was able to turn it around.
I'm not sure he's on one there. I mean, it didn't look the easiest shot to get the reds open. And if anyone knows how to do it, it's the man behind the cue, O'Sullivan. He's brilliant at all of that. But there was a situation where even he couldn't get the reds into potable positions. So we played 10 frames and we played the remaining 11 in the evening session, which is, if you're in Europe, of course, over the course of our afternoon. Wow, what a shot. What a shot. This is going to be a great final. It really is. It's already shaping up with a few talking points, turning points. What could have been 4-0. I mean, O'Sullivan could have won any one of the first 3 frames, which he lost it also. So that's the other side of the coin. It's an argument that if Murphy's going to win, he had to make the kind of start he has. If he'd have been 3-1 or 4-0 down, it's probably lights out. But it isn't. And Murphy's playing better than I've seen him for quite some time.
And he's such an asset to the game when he is playing like this. He's one of the most watchable players in the game of snooker because of the way he cues. Very easy on the eye with the way in which he goes about his business. He's always been an attacking player. That's when he's at his best, when he's going for his shots, scoring heavily. Closing in on 500 career centuries now, Murphy. 494 on the roster, 5 of which have been made this week.
10.
O'Sullivan back in his chair for now. How well did he strike that one?
Fabulously well. And also, I think even better, Philip, is the angle he's got from blue to bunch. Yeah, this is just wonderful cueing. Well, he's unlucky. He deserves to be on something. I wonder if that very bottom red goes.
16.
But no, a little shake of the head suggests that's no good. I don't think you can do much more than that. The cue was not left the middle of the table when hitting the pink, so he could have been on one, but he isn't. Well, whether he likes it or not, now he's got to slip in the safety shot, and it's going to have to be a good one. These are the little moments where you really have to give it extra, because Sullivan's long game seems to be getting better. cue ball down in that top left pocket. Somewhere in that little area would be good, I think. The red over the pocket's no good. He needs cover.
16.
Well, a little risky. Don't think he's left the red. The other problem is a thin safety off the left side of the two reds by the pink. You've got to avoid the black and the red on the left cushion.
Well,
he'll try and do that again. And the problem is, he wanted to shift that red. He didn't see a safety shot involving leaving that red there. But I tell you, how on earth did he miss it on the way up and the way back down?
One. Shot off a 1.
Well. Well, that was a golden chance. I know the black and the red were tied up, but the other balls in the middle of the table were very gettable. I know that if he pots the pink, it ties itself up. But he could have played on the blue.
1.
And now he's really left O'Sullivan the red that was tying the pink up there. So he's given him a gift.
Seven. 8. $14. 15.
He played that well. He's got himself close to the red, which means he's got an angle to do just about whatever he likes here. And significantly and crucially, he
21.
won't need the red by the black, but he will need an angle on the blue. Now, how does he keep the break going from here? To hit this very hard. Now, which red can he play on?
26.
Well, if he's on the right-hand red of the two, that is a sensational positional shot. What a shot he played on the blue
27.
there. I'm not sure the red and the black, the red by the black red anyway. That was a fabulous shot in the end. Only O'Sullivan could think of that. He was almost straight on the blue, but he found an angle.
$32.
Not over the line yet. Oh, but he is now. He's starting to turn it on. It's only a small break, this, but I'll tell you, there's been some shots in it.
Yeah, O'Sullivan has really upped his level in the last two frames, and he's punishing Sean Murphy for the short-range miss on the pink when he had the first opportunity in this frame. just as he did in the previous one.
Well, Sullivan has only just looked to see if that red passes the black. So that tells me the shot on the blue around the angles.
35.
He played on that red, and there's only one place he could have got on it. The two reds close together, and that was where he finished. That was terrific stuff.
35.
A very effective break of 35. A telling contribution from Ronnie O'Sullivan to put him very much in the box seat to win his second straight frame. Well, roars from the crowd, but Murphy needs a high-value colour to have a chance of getting back into this.
Well, they loved it, but it was absolutely the last thing he wanted, that red going in. The crowd were hooting and hollering. They loved the shot, but Murphy not amused.
Pink ball.
41 the difference, only the colours left. This has got to go in.
Show me for 1.
Well, he doesn't concede frames when it's his opponent's shot, but Murphy has given the frame up in his mind.
And you just wonder if Murphy has missed the boat here a little. 3-0 up. O'Sullivan hadn't settled. Murphy much the stronger, couple of 60 breaks, including that steal to the black in the second frame. And he's had clear chances in the 2 frames that have followed. But he's lost both of them. And O'Sullivan has begun to play. Still very early in this final. 11 is the target this evening. But Murphy might have had a commanding advantage after 5 frames. Instead, it's going to be just 1 between them. Oh. The crowd enjoyed that little cannon from O'Sullivan. Battle well and truly joined now, just a frame between them. Murphy leads 3-2. Sean Murphy preparing to break off in frame 6. He was 3-0 up. O'Sullivan was rocking a little. And Murphy has had chances in the 2 frames that have followed. But O'Sullivan has won both of them, so it's just a 3-2 deficit now for the defending champion.
Yeah, Murphy missed the pink to the left middle, which, when the pink was spotted, would have tied the pink up. But when he missed it, the red that would have been in the way was the one that O'Sullivan potted, so it opened the game up for him. But it wasn't without a scare. There was a wonderful positional shot in the middle of it. Inspired stuff. The match is starting to really take shape, isn't it? And like you say, there is a long way to go, but if the rest of it's like what we're seeing now, it's going to be an absolute gem of a final.
It is, and we're just halfway through this first session. Another 5 frames still to come. Possible 11 this evening. Murphy, remember, has only won 3 of his 14 meetings with O'Sullivan. He's taken a few drubbings down the years. But 2 of those 3 victories were in finals, including the Champion of Champions 2 years ago. That's one area of O'Sullivan's game that hasn't been on song as often as he would have liked this week, his long potting.
A little hit or miss, isn't he? You're right, absolutely right. The touch and all the other stuff is always there. But you saw by his emotions there, as he missed the shot, that he's not quite queuing through those. And that's always the hardest part, the long game. It's not something Murphy struggles with all that much, to be honest. He's a wonderful long potter. Is he on the black? This must be tight. I think he, possibly with a trace of left-hand side, he might be able to straighten the potting angle. He doesn't seem to think so. He's right behind it, not me. Well, he's a millimetre or 2 from being on the black there. That'll hurt him.
And those are the margins. Had he been on the black,
Murphy 1.
he might well have gone on to make a frame-winning break there.
Sometimes I think what makes a very interesting, enthralling match is there's great shots being played, but there are one or two errors creeping in from both players as well. This game is not so easy that they can always play perfect snooker, but dramatic snooker is what we're seeing.
Well, Murphy is missing one or two now that he hasn't been throughout the week and indeed throughout this season. His second straight final, remember, here in China.
Just think that his cue was going over the top of the green ball there and he was cueing down on it, which adds to the degree of difficulty on any shot. Well, that's a lovely little nudge. You'll take that. Perfectly on the blue. Probably deserved it because the pot was a good one. Now he immediately looks at how he's going to get on the high value colours.
Six. Seven.
And he's opened everything up now. Certainly around the pink spot, not necessarily the black spot. But a chance to do quite a lot of damage here. O'Sullivan still has an awful lot to offer the game. In his 44th year, we haven't seen him since the World Championship. But when you do see him, he rarely fails to excite with his style of play, his creativity, and when it comes to his break building, it's all still there.
20.
5 titles in each of the last 2 seasons is testament to that. It's only at the World Championship where he's faltered. Seismic upset in losing to James Cahill in the first round in the spring.
26.
Perhaps O'Sullivan feels the pressure there in a way that he doesn't
27.
in the other big events. Mindful of the fact that he's still 2 behind Stephen Hendry's all-time record of 7 Crucible titles, but he's arguably played better than ever in the last 2 seasons in most of the events he's contested.
34.
He's certainly warming up now after a slightly average start when Murphy was monopolising the table.
$40. 41.
Where he played this well, he looked at the black immediately and thought that maybe it was too difficult to get on that, so he played a few shots where he really cleared the decks for the pink to be potable in all pockets, because when he first came to the table there were lots of reds in the way, and you can win the frame without the black being on, but you've got to be good.
47.
He's got to watch the green here as he leans over the table.
48. 54.
Oh, that was a kick. That was a huge kick.
54.
The red went straight on rather than from the potting angle.
What a time to get it as well. O'Sullivan closing in on the frame, 53 in front, but still 75 there for Murphy.
And I think that he was starting to cue well, which makes me always think of when some people in the game will say a kick is bad cueing. Well, he didn't look like he was cueing badly to me. I think he got a bad contact. So it's nothing to do with the cueing.
Just feel as though Murphy's gone off the boil a bit though since the first 3 frames.
Absolutely. Ronnie was out of his chair very quickly there.
The expression tells the story. Murphy has let O'Sullivan off the hook a couple of times already in this final.
1.
And the miscue doesn't look likely to be costly now. Same miscue, the kick.
Yeah, and it was quite a severe one. The red never went anywhere near the pocket.
7.
But like you say, you can put it down to it's one of those things. Because the frame has won, it's made no difference. We haven't had a huge amount of kicks this week, so just put it behind us and move on. And the final really is going nicely. I'm enjoying it, and there's so much more to look forward
14.
to. But if you're Sean Murphy, the 3-0 lead has been completely gobbled up here.
15.
Yeah, and it's not because O'Sullivan has blown Murphy off the table. Murphy's had chances in all 6 frames, pretty good ones. He's won 3 of them, but he may feel as though he should have won at least 4,
21.
maybe 5. He pinched one himself, of course, on the black after O'Sullivan had missed.
22.
There are always going to be frames like that in a final of this length. Frames you might have won that you lost and vice versa, but you can't shake the feeling that Murphy may have missed a trick here.
27.
O'Sullivan is certainly playing better now. That
Number
red doesn't
27
matter.
In the frame.
So, from 3-0 down, Ronnie O'Sullivan has roared back here in Shanghai.
You sure each other?
We're dead level once again. 3 frames each. Perhaps a little wardrobe malfunction for O'Sullivan, pointed out by referee Zheng Wei Li, but in terms of the scoreboard, it's looking much rosier for the defending and 3 times champion here. It's 3 apiece. Ronnie O'Sullivan right back in the mix now, 3-all from 3-0 down. Sean Murphy has had chances to be looking at a healthy lead right now, and he's got to forget about those chances and concentrate on what's ahead, because there's still 4 frames to come in this session.
Yeah, I think also the referee Zheng Wei Li has got to forget about going up to the players and either saying their shirts out or something. He went up to O'Sullivan at the end of that frame and suggested there was something not right, like a button was undone or the shirt was. I think that's just wrong. He's in a bubble of good concentration. He looks smart enough. I think the referee should concentrate on taking the balls out of the pockets, and keeping the crowd in check, not things like that. Great pot. Got a little lucky, but who's to say he didn't deserve that?
Well, he needs to re-establish the form he was in at the start of this final. Indeed, the form he's been in throughout the week. Just 1 or 2 careless errors from Murphy have crept in the last few frames, and that's why his lead has evaporated. So he needs to get back on track quickly.
In fairness, I do think the referees, there is a directive that goes around that instructs them to do what he did and tell a player to put his shirt in or something, but I just think it's totally wrong. Anyway, Murphy is cueing well, and he has to remember how well he was played to get here and in the early frames.
60.
And there's no reason why at 3-3 he couldn't go on and at least level this first session, or of course pull away and win it. 10 frame session.
17.
Sullivan has put him on the back foot, but he's got to look at it and say, well, it's a good job I won those early frames. That's not quite so well played.
20.
I think he's on the red still.
Well,
the good thing about that was he didn't actually kiss into the blue ball on the way through. It's a good shot, this. And also, he may just go into the pink here at pace and get the reds open. Murphy plays this shot. He really does play it well. There's always the worry, of course, if you hit it smack on, that you will knock a red in. It's possible. Well, in this case,
foul.
The cue ball went in. The reds didn't really split, but he's a bit unlucky for that to happen.
One.
Well, he nearly missed the pot, and that's the reason the cue ball's gone astray. So this is really all he's got here is a safety shot.
No, that's not even one.
I think Murphy's grappling at the moment with the knowledge that although it's 3-all, he really should be ahead. I mean, this was hardly a gimme, but we know how good Murphy is from long range, and he missed that by a long way. Worse for him, he's left O'Sullivan an easy starter.
Straight.
Well, there was some doubt. Red drifting to the near jaw, but it dropped.
$11. 12.
Wow, I wonder if the red that he's pushed close-ish to the left corner is actually available.
17.
The red to the right is, but he's very close to this. Be careful not to play a push shot here. Oh, that's well played. It sounded
18.
like a very smooth contact, no push shot. And cue ball perfectly on the blue.
23.
Ronnie O'Sullivan isn't especially associated with comebacks because during most of his career he's won by leading from the front. Of course, he did produce an extraordinary comeback against Kyron Wilson from 5-1 down, albeit that Kyron will know he really should have won that match. He had lots of chances to put O'Sullivan away. But 3-0 down today in the final against a very much informed Shaun Murphy. O'Sullivan had to dig deep
31.
once again.
32.
And he's done just that. He's begun to produce some of his more free-flowing snooker, and we know that can be devastating.
Yes, it's a slight crisis, I think, now in this match. I know that if Ronnie was to win this frame, which he hasn't yet, by the way, but if he was to, it would be only 4-3, but it's a surge of 4 frames potentially in a row here.
40.
And then you wonder where his next frame's coming from. And Ronnie's just got to finish off the job, though. Still enough points left, should he miss, for Murphy. And he needs 2 of these remaining 3 reds.
47. 48.
His third half century of the final.
Yes, it's not been a final with huge breaks as we may have expected. We haven't seen a century yet, have we? And nice break, 68 from Murphy. It's been very entertaining all the same.
Acknowledgement of frame ball, barring snookers, this to make sure. So it's going to be a 4-frame winning run for Ronnie O'Sullivan. He's going for his 15th
61.
consecutive win here in Shanghai and his 3rd consecutive title.
62.
Yeah, I think the point I was making is with 3 more frames to play, Murphy is going to have to take some of those. He's going to have to win at least 1.
69.
From his point of view. And he could obviously still go in front going into tonight, but everything is with O'Sullivan right now. His concentration's there,
71.
his touch is back. Murphy's lost his game, and these are the moments when you've got to dig in and win frames.
74.
Or else this man would just devour the table and go even further in front.
Not enough points for a century
78.
here for O'Sullivan. He's made 6 of them this week. 2 against Robertson, finished with a 1-3-4 to beat the Australian. But he's really begun to play now, and that's 4 frames on the bounce from the defending Shanghai Masters champion. Food for thought for Shaun Murphy, who was 3-0 up, remember, and now trails with 3 more frames to come by 4 frames to 3. Ronnie O'Sullivan sipping on his cup of hot water, I suspect, and he'll be pretty happy with the way he's turned this session around. 3-0 down, he was struggling a bit. Murphy was playing as he's done from the season start, impressively, and he was 43 up, remember, in the 4th frame and looking good for 4-0. And then O'Sullivan really would have been under the cosh, but Murphy's begun to make mistakes. O'Sullivan's playing a good deal better. And Murphy now finds himself behind with 3 more to come in this first session. And when they start going in, it spells trouble for O'Sullivan's opponents. Beautifully struck. Playing with extra confidence now. He's on a roll.
Yes, and the ball's in fairly orthodox positions. It's just how O'Sullivan likes them.
5. 12. 13.
Oh, that's a beautiful shot. Little stun run through, played to perfection. There is the red near the cue ball, which is the only downside, but he's got centre ball striking. Somebody's phone or alarm. It sounds like the alarm call that wakes me up in the morning.
Could be Sean Murphy's alarm bells ringing.
20.
Well, it would take a lot to distract O'Sullivan. He did finish short on that. He had awkward cueing.
21.
Well recovered.
$24. 25. 31. 32.
That's another nice positional shot. The Reds are very inviting, and O'Sullivan has got him into that position. He has had one or two little ticklish problems on the way in this break. He's not always been plain sailing, as so many immaculate O'Sullivan breaks tend to be. But I think what you are seeing is a good level of concentration now from O'Sullivan. He seems to have warmed to it. We know he should have been beaten by Karen Wilson, who led him 5-1. And at that point looked a bit ring rusty, I suppose, having not played any significant match, well, any match, before this week, since he lost in that very surprising World Championship match to an amateur James Cahill. It's always going to take him a while to get back to it, back to work. 44. Is he on one here?
I think there's something about this city, this tournament, that just puts O'Sullivan at ease, so that even when he is struggling in a match and he's up against it, as he was against Wilson, as he was at the start here against Murphy, doesn't panic. But that red this time has stayed out off the far jaw.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it went. I mean, I really am not sure, because well, he wanted it to go, if you know what I mean, rather than was sure that it did. And he shakes his head because he knows he's given a glimmer to Sean Murphy, who's got to do something here. I get the feeling this is a very important part of the match for him. A chance that he never thought he'd get in this frame.
Yeah, since he made that break of 43, Murphy, when he was looking good for 4-0, he scored just 45 points. 44 points, in fact, before this contribution. So he's lost his way. He's missed a few that he hasn't been missing.
No, but as you say, this is now a chance. I mean, There are 3 reds that are not straightforward, but I wouldn't put it beyond him to make a few here. The situation really does suggest that now is a time that he gets back into things, gets his game back together.
11.
He's overscrewed slightly there. Must have played a cannon. He's lucky to be on the black, but he played a cannon, I'm sure he did, on the bottom red of the 2 on the cushion. I don't think that the 2 reds close to each other next to the pink, either of those pot to the left corner. If he could just screw up to where he's standing now, looking towards them, he'd be fine, but I think they're a little too close together, those reds. Which means he's got a very difficult shot to come through bulk if he plays it that way, because cue ball and object ball close together make it even tougher.
Yellow ball.
Well, I think interesting he's playing the yellow here, so he's just running away. Can even pop the black for the points.
Show him off it. 12.
Didn't really achieve much there, did he?
.32 the difference with 67 on. Good safety from O'Sullivan, finding the baulk cushion. The momentum in this match has shifted pretty dramatically.
Foul. O'Sullivan 4.
Good billiard shot. Not much use in snooker though.
Yeah, just the long pots aren't quite going in. Some are, but some are staying out. And perfectionist that he is, he would like to improve on that. There were spells actually last season when Sullivan's long game was about the same as it was when he was 16 or 17 coming through. He was knocking them all in.
It's funny, isn't it, when you're beginning to struggle, don't get quite the kindly kisses that you do when you're flowing.
Exactly, and obviously he can drop in behind the brown, but that feels like he's not going to get much out of that. To cut the brown in and maybe just again try and screw onto the 2 reds on the left cushions. Big shot. Oh, he's played it delightfully. Great shot.
Delicate touch from Murphy, that should make him feel better. Be very conscious of the need to stop this winning streak of frames from O'Sullivan. Make sure he's still banging contention at the end of this first session.
He brought that red into play also, so he's making a good break here. He's banging the frame. If he can knock this blue in and get in behind a red. Obviously that left-hand red is another one that's awkward, but it's about the only ball now that is.
11.
Not clean, but it went in.
18.
Well, I don't think he's going to play the cannon the red out. He's a bit low down the cushion for that. I suspect he'll play in behind it. And of course, he's
19.
a right-handed player, so it'll require a rest shot. And he's one of the best rest players in the game. Well, he couldn't have played it any better. He's right behind it. He can drop this in.
26.
Means that playing it slowly, there's every chance of the ball going in along the cushion. Slower the better.
Big moments in this final. Murphy closes to within 9 points. The black to come and then the colours. So he looks to equalise here, having been 3-0 up.
Yes, yeah, he didn't actually get a very good angle on the black. He wanted to be a bit straighter. Didn't particularly want to go around the table. Now this is a very acute angle to the middle pocket on this yellow. I don't know if he's considering it, but he did look at the angle. It would hurt O'Sullivan to lose this frame. Terrific shot at that speed. He hit it quite firmly and there wasn't much pocket to aim into.
Another good pot and position required. He's taking these well, Murphy.
Well, maybe there's another twist then, because it looked for all the world that O'Sullivan was powering away in this session. Looked like it was going to be 5 in a row from 3-0 down, and he's certainly put a stop to that. Very telling little break this, up to and including the pink.
48.
And that was a big frame.
It really is. This is ice cool stuff from Murphy. A very timely intervention. He's produced some fine little clearances this week. And that is about as important as any that he's made, because it's got him level again with Ronnie O'Sullivan. Dead level. Here in the final of the Shanghai Masters, Ronnie O'Sullivan trailed 3-0, then put together a 4-frame burst and was looking favourite for 5-3, and that would have been bad news for Sean Murphy, but to his great credit, Murphy has produced a pressure clearance there to the pink to draw this match level again. So we're dead even at 4 each, with 2 more frames to come in this first session. A possible 21 in total, the first to 11 to take the title and that first prize of £200,000.
It was quite a good containing safety shot there, actually, to leave the cue ball in the left corner. Well, it's one of those, if you're going to play it, you've got to get close to the pot so that the red stays at this end of the table. Now this is a tester. Does the black go to the left corner? If so, Ronnie might take on this long red. And we have seen him miss 1 or 2 at range of these sort of shots. Some are going in, some are not, put it that way. Well, he's walks around slowly, and I don't know if he feels at ease on this or not. It must be tight. At least the pot went in, that'll give him some confidence. Can't quite get to the potting angle there, or enough of the pocket, I should say, that's available. The red was just in the way. That was poor. Hitting the blue doesn't really suit either of these players when the blue goes safe.
He's hit that too well. Got a lot of action on the cue ball there. Still on the yellow.
Straight. Four.
Well, the table not that promising. Reds close together. Not much of an angle on the black, and of course, as I said, the blue out of commission. So scoring is not going to be easy from here.
$11.
Yes, just to repeat, there are 10 frames in this session. It's quite an unusual number, isn't it? So this one and one more. It's been evenly contested, but there have been a few twists in some of the frames. Not all of these frames, these 8 frames, have been won by the player that has been in the driving seat throughout. A couple of them have been won by clearances.
Show him off at 11.
That's another stunning long pot from Sean Murphy. So dangerous and so difficult to keep away from the table for long. This is probably the shot of the day, I would say. Certainly the long pot of the session. Obviously a long way to go in this match, but you feel this is quite a big frame. Whoever wins it certainly cannot be behind going into tonight. And a 6-4 lead either way is possible. Could be significant. Amazing, he pots a great long red luck he did, and then misses one that's about 3 times easier.
That's the kind of pot that Murphy prides himself on ordinarily, that mid-range. Not this time though.
He's just running it through, wasn't he? You're right. I mean, I wasn't expecting to miss that. Didn't seem costly at the time, but I tell you, now that he's finished on the black, O'Sullivan into the bunch here, it could be very costly.
In a couple of shots, O'Sullivan getting things open.
8.
Look at the action he got here.
Yeah, the red up the table, as you saw, just comes to rest in a position where it's not potable to the middle. So it's one less that he's got to work with.
Well, we didn't quite catch it on camera, but I think O'Sullivan has been rapping his knuckles on the table again at missing that one.
Indeed. He's furious about this.
If looks could kill.
Well, I understand how he feels, because he's done a little bit of work to get himself in, but he's immediately back at the table. I hope he hasn't hurt his hand. But this is what the game does. You feel that you're getting your opponent where you want them, and then you let them off the hook. And that's the most annoying thing. If Sean Murphy goes in and knocks a century at the start of this frame, then you don't really mind so much, because that's good play. I think O'Sullivan feels that when you've got someone, not so much where you want them, but you've got them on top, you've got to just put them away. It is an important part of this match. A couple more frames to be played.
A little bit worried that he might snooker himself behind the brown there. But as frustrated as O'Sullivan was at missing just now to the right centre, Murphy will be doubly so, surely, for not being able to punish him. Sullivan straight back at the table.
4.
He's played a little cannon on the left-hand red there. That was not going to make him feel any better at all. For the moment, he's lost his way. I mean, this is actually a long session of snooker, 10 frames, isn't it? Maybe his concentration has not allowed him to see the session out.
Well, at least he was able to smile, at least initially, missing that one, rather than inflict further damage on his knuckles. But at the moment, both players seem to have just lost their focus a little as we come towards the end of this first session, which is still bang in the balance.
I think we both know this, and they both know it, that the winning and losing of this match will probably be everything that happens tonight, whoever wins these 2 frames. But It's all a question of coming out of the session feeling happy with your game. And if Murphy wins them both, O'Sullivan will be furious.
This is a tester, though. Yeah, Murphy just grazed the green in playing position, which meant that he didn't get the cue ball where he wanted it for that shot, and suddenly they're missing all over the shot.
Yes, it's the first really scrappy frame we've seen actually in this match. Most of them have been won in a couple of visits. Nice break is only 78. And the match so far, that was by O'Sullivan. Frame 7.
7.
Good shot there because he got the cue ball out of that little area. Played it with the right hand running side. He did push one of the reds a little safe though.
$14. 15.
Well, he's always been a master at playing cannons. He's going to try and push one of these reds out here. Missed them all.
$21.
51 points still on the table. 18 the difference.
Running side of 21.
Couldn't have played that any better, could he? What a delicate touch that was from O'Sullivan.
Yeah, the crowd loved it. Murphy should be able to drop into the red okay, but it was still a good shot. Don't think it's going to be too much of a threat. Just up to that red with the rest. Possibly still got a bit of snooker to be played in this frame.
In it goes. But not the position to go with it.
No, but it's actually handy though, because if he gets right in behind the black, there's a shot again, by the way. Yeah. It's not easy because Murphy can't really do anything with the right hand red. He's got to hit the other one.
Spotted some good doubles this week, O'Sullivan. He knocked in a back double on the pink to steal the first frame against Neil Robertson in the semi-final.
Just got to be very careful. Obviously the red that's safe works in his favour because right now O'Sullivan needs it as well. He won't need it if he misses a couple of times. That's a different story. So he's got to try and hit this sooner rather than later.
Foul. And let me see. Runner serving 5. Back.
It's got to be put back, hasn't it? Because he can't get to the red. Referee's now got to work out where the blue was. Which is not easy to do because you're not really thinking about replacing the blue on this shot. You worry about where the cue ball is. So 24 points in it. If he was to miss again, 28, and then a red and a black from O'Sullivan would be too many. I think that's where we're at. The red and the black. Ronnie will definitely play this. Cue ball has gone in the worst place. It's actually quite close to cannoning the red out here, and he certainly doesn't want to do that. He's going to play it with a little bit of stun, I think. He should have done better there, O'Sullivan. I'm sure he knows it. But both players' concentration has been lost momentarily.
Yes, that was frame ball, barring snookers. So Murphy still in the hunt, just in this frame.
Yeah, that's the worst feeling as a snooker player. You can miss any shot, you can be nervous on a shot, anything, but when your concentration starts to wander, it's not a very good position to be in, because you know it's happening. And you've got to try and do something to stop it happening. At the moment, O'Sullivan isn't really there. He may still win the frame, but his mind is somewhere else.
That's more like it from Murphy. This would be another big steal for him.
Wow, what a frame to win this would be.
He won the previous frame, which he looked as though he was going to lose, for 5 on the bounce for O'Sullivan with a break of 61. Can he now move back in front with 1 frame to come in this session? They're all there.
6.
Well, you don't care how scrappy a frame is if you win it.
Yes, it feels big, doesn't it, this frame now? They all count. I think Murphy also knows the significance of this himself. He's been at times outplayed, outscored, but he could go back in front here. When he was in that snooker behind the black, it looked like he was at certainty to lose the frame.
It looked like being a very telling
18.
snooker that O'Sullivan laid. He only needed the red and the black to secure the frame for 5-4. Didn't land nicely on the black, missed the cut back. Looks like he's missed the boat in this frame.
24.
Well, there's one more frame to play after this, and when O'Sullivan needs to regroup, he's going to go out, I think. He's lost that one from nowhere.
That's another really good steal for Murphy. There's been a twist in the tail at the back end of this session after O'Sullivan won 4 on the bounce, was threatening to take control. He's now lost 2 in a row and trails 5-4. There has to be a combined 20 for the entire season for the £1 million bonus to kick in. And bear in mind that the previous highest tally of maximum breaks in a single campaign is 13, so That's going to take some achieving. All that matters for these two players is winning the title and the £200,000 that goes with it. Not the best of break-offs from Murphy. He's brought a red up the table, which he's done a few times this week. And O'Sullivan gets the potting angle. Looks as though he might be able to. Well, he could, but he hit it too thick.
Yes, he's still not happy, is he? Not happy at all. There was a little spell in the middle of the session where he looked as if he was really in concentration. He was starting to, you know, get the old magic back. But as I said, a 10-frame session is a very long one. I know that, you know, it's only snooker we're playing here. We're not running marathons, but it is a long one. And maybe towards the end of a session of that length, where of course you can't win the match in the first session, players' concentrations can lapse. I think Murphy's has a little bit, but he got it back crucially at the end of that last frame. He's stolen 2 frames now in a row. He had no right to win.
Yeah, the 8th frame was big, wasn't it? Because O'Sullivan, as you say, was beginning to play perhaps as well as he's done all week in that spell of 4 frames. And was threatening to take a session lead after Murphy had led 3-0, but Murphy came up with that fine clearance to steal, and he's done it again in the frame just gone.
4. $11.
Well, that's a lovely split. Problem is the black's a little awkward, more than a little awkward actually, but just seeing if it's cleared away the pink spot there from that overhead. I think the pink will go on there, will it? Well, thank goodness it goes on neither the pink or the black spot. Probably better off up
17.
there. Probably suits Murphy more so.
$18.
Well, they've got plenty of work on that.
24.
On that cue ball to take the cue ball over to the left of the table.
$25.
He's having to work the cue ball here to make a sizable break with pink on the blue spot and black out of commission. But it's a chance nonetheless for Murphy to put a 3-frame burst together,
31.
just as he did at the start of this final. O'Sullivan looking a little anxious again. Missed the red, he undercut it.
31.
What a chance that's gone begging there for Murphy.
Yes, Ronnie looks at boiling point for the last 20 minutes if he's most unhappy, and this chance has come at a good time. This will test him.
1.
Test his resolve. There's no getting away from it. He wouldn't want to lose in a final to Shaun Murphy. They're not, the best of pals, and the same applies to Murphy. The other way of looking at it, they would take great satisfaction in beating each other.
Yeah, and here's a test. There's some pressure on this pink, given what's happened in the previous 2 frames.
Well, he's knocked those in all of his career, hasn't he? When he first turned professional. Of course, it was usually the blue on that spot, but those sort of recovery shots
7.
into bulk pockets is how he really got started in the game.
Eight.
I think it's O'Sullivan's longevity which he's most proud of in a career that couldn't have been much more decorated. 36 ranking titles, level with the great Stephen Hendry, now retired. But when you consider he won the first of those before his 18th birthday, beating Hendry in the UK final, and more than a quarter of a century later, he's still arguably the man to beat. It's quite remarkable.
$15.
It's been a seesaw affair this first session, hasn't it? Murphy 3-0 up, could have been 4-0, then O'Sullivan 4-3 up, could have been 5-3. Murphy retaking the lead with a chance to make it 6-4,
22.
but missing the red. O'Sullivan now with the opportunity to share the session. A thoroughly engrossing one.
Yeah, you can just look into Ronnie O'Sullivan's eyes here, and you can see that he
28.
is desperately trying to get his rhythm back that he
29.
seems to have lost. It's quite difficult to get it back in a session. Sometimes you need a break and start again, but he's really striving here to find his form. He knows that if he lost his session 6-4, it would be not so much a crushing blow, but it'd be a big disappointment to him. He could take plenty of positives out of being 3-0 down and finishing at 5-all.
36.
But he has more work to do yet.
$42. 43. $49. 50.
Not too many of their previous meetings have been that close. O'Sullivan, of course, has won 11 of the 14. And he's inflicted a few drubbings down the years. 13-3 and 13-7 at the World Championship, 10-5 in the UK final that Neil was mentioning earlier after losing the Champion of Champions final.
53.
I don't think he enjoyed that one though, Neil.
Well, he didn't really want to be playing on the green. He wanted to continue around the pink spot. He'd taken 7 red, 7 pinks. He's a little unlucky with that cannon actually to cover them both, but he can pop one to the left corner. No, he's not a happy man, but he does lead by 22 points. But he'd be fully aware that he's lost a few frames like this one this afternoon. I wonder if Murphy will take a gamble and go for this right-hand red. The trouble is, I think it's hard to see it going safe should he miss it, and it's all about the percentages of whether he's going to get it more times than he does miss it.
Oh,
what a shot. What a fabulous pot. Well, if he was to clear up here, I don't think I'd want to be in Ronnie O'Sullivan's company for a few minutes, because he would need to simmer down.
There might be a bit of feng shui in his dressing room.
Well, it's not so much Ronnie himself, it's any snooker player would be absolutely seething if they lost all these frames in the way that they're going.
5.
Murphy's got work to do, but this could be, well, this frame could go a long way to deciding who wins this match.
He's been very adept this week at clearing up from behind. He's won 2 black ball frames already in this final, and a pink ball frame as O'Sullivan watches on.
Yeah, the other thing to say, crucially, Murphy does not need the black here, so if he clears up to the pink, he'll be 2 up
12.
going into the night session.
Key shot coming up here, plenty of pressure on it, having to play with the rest as well, which doesn't normally faze him. But this is a big, big frame.
Show him off at 12.
Murphy disappointed. O'Sullivan breathes again. And that's a terrific pot from O'Sullivan. It looks like being the frame-winning pot.
Yep, big frame. And that really was a sweet pot.
It's been a to and fro session, hasn't it? Thoroughly absorbing stuff from these 2 players. Murphy racing into that 3-0 lead. O'Sullivan looking a little out of sorts.
Well, it's been a session where the significance has been the frames that players have lost, because not a lot of these frames have been won in a single visit. It's the twists and turns that we found intriguing, and tonight it's going to be even better.
And I guess you'd have to say, with all of that in mind, that 5-all is just about right. It could not be set up more perfectly for the deciding session this evening. A little shake of the head from O'Sullivan. He'll have mixed feelings, I think. In the end, he's got to be reasonably satisfied to be level, having been 3-0 adrift. Sean Murphy, well, he'll have to settle for parity at 5 each. So, it's now a best of 11 frame match, with the first session split right down the middle. It's been really entertaining stuff. No centuries, but plenty of breaks, plenty of drama. Both players with reasons to feel as though they might have been in front. And in the end, they both have to accept that they're dead level